This is Scheme to Death with noted college football columnist Murf Baldwin, delving deep into scheme and personnel as only he can do. And now, your host, Murf Baldwin.
Yo, what up, people? Feeling good, feeling fine, and I hope you are too. The first podcast since football has officially returned. Yeah, I'm getting there, no doubt about that, man. I'm getting excited. Watching all that back together again stuff on NFL Network. Definitely getting the juices flowing, right? No Diddy. But man, can't front though. I'm still, I'm still kind of in wind down time. I got a lot of stuff going on personally, trying to get some goals accomplished before the season really ramps up here, especially when those preseason games hit. You know it's going to be crazy and bananas. You know how I do it over here at Top Billin. So, of course, make sure you're supporting the content. Make sure you're doing that by sharing the content. Of course, right? Because sharing is caring. For the stuff to continue to really do what it needs to do, you guys have to make sure you do your part. And a lot of that has to do with definitely spreading the word. Of course, if you love the content like I know many of you do, consider donating to the cause. This stuff definitely runs by crowdfunding, so make sure you do your part with that as well. So there's a number of addresses you can definitely send your donations to. And of course, you can always hit that thanks button. Wouldn't be my first choice there. Obviously, YouTube is definitely involved in something like that, but we don't discriminate. We welcome it all. So if that's what you have to do, then that's what you have to do. But obviously, if you was to send it at those addresses that usually pop up on the screen, whether it be the PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, and all of that, you hit that, I think, a friend's gift or something like that, and then that goes straight to the cause. So make sure you're doing your part, all right? But you know who's doing their part? Your man, Eat at Geno's, aka Grubb at Geno's, and you have a lot of people who are taking notice. Now, I want to talk about expectations for this year and also talk about the fact that it appears that the offense is ahead of the defense at this junction, which is very surprising to me, all things considered. Now, for those of us who've played, you know that the defense is usually ahead of the offense when you first starting out, especially if you're installing brand new concepts from a brand new regime. I tell people all the time, defense is a lot about hustling. It's about discipline. You can't fake the funk on defense. A lot of people say, oh yeah, we can trick our way on defense. And there's a little bit to that, right? Disguising coverages, maybe disguising where you're sending fabricated pressure, the whole nine. No doubt about that. But even in doing so, you still have to have discipline. You still have to hustle. Your assignments aren't going to defend themselves. Where on offense, yeah, there's some trickeration to be had. You can loaf on offense if you want, right? There are people loafing on offense all the time if the ball isn't going to them. But you can't really take a play off on defense, even if the ball isn't going to you, because, man, the chances are you can be involved in the play by tackling, right? It should be the same thing on offense, right? Whether it be blocking or stuff like that. But, you can get away with it. So if you're out there hustling at the beginning of a camp or the beginning of install and all that, you should be able to be ahead of an offense, installing brand new verbiage, brand new concepts and schemes. Because let's be real here, the offense is a lot about trust. It's a lot about rhythm and timing. So that develops usually with, of course, repetitions and experience. If you played in one defense, if it fits your skill set, more than likely you'll translate to the next defense. Right? There are some people who just won't translate to certain offenses depending on the position. But from all the stuff that I've gathered so far, the offense has been hitting on cylinders, right? You're getting a lot of superlatives, obviously, from Geno Smith, DK Metcalf as well. A lot of people saying that maybe he's turning the corner, right? And I hate to say that, right? Because people get so offended with DK Metcalf coverage, right? And it's been that way. So people used to get mad at me, or people going to get mad, period, right? So that's why I told myself this season I'm going to attack that new dope that I was telling you guys about, right? I can't control a bunch of dumbasses out there who are fanboys and all that. I can only control myself and can only control my reactions to those dumbasses, because they'll forever be around. You got guys out there, I swear, right? They'll say that they hate my guts, I'm this, I'm that, but they'll continue to watch. They'll make up excuses why they have to watch. Well, you cover my team. I'm the only one covering your team, Playboy. Really? It's probably 50,000 other people. You could be anywhere. You can be anywhere else but here, but they're going to keep showing up because they know I be serving that hibachi and they can't help themselves, right? Most haters can't help themselves. These are grown-ass adults, right? These adults need to wear Depends, Pampers, and shit like that. They just can't stop. So I'm going to continue to be myself. If I see something and I don't feel like something's up to snuff, I'm going to continue to call it out. So DK Metcalf, I said it before, extremely talented cat as far as the physicality goes, still has work to do with the technical portion of his game. So if he turns a corner with that, if he's one of these guys, right, so some people say, he's too big to be a technical route runner. I don't believe that at all. You got bigger guys out there like Mike Evans. I always thought he was a pretty good route runner, but Keenan Allen and these bigger guys, Mike Thomas from the New Orleans Saints, these aren't small individuals, but these guys are very technical route runners. A lot of their stuff, right, is because, quite frankly, they're not blessed like DK Metcalf as far as athleticism goes. So these guys probably there's no probably about it. You got to put in the work. These guys put in the work to make sure that they're sharp in and out of their transitions. They're able to change elevations and sink those hips, getting out of those cuts. They're naturally more talented as far as catching the ball. So that's something that, as much as DK Metcalf can work on it, it will always be something that's just really based on your natural talents. And you have some people who can just, it can be babies. I was like that, right? I was in third grade, I believe, third or second grade. And I remember they could throw me bombs. And this came from my dad and I really working and honing in on my baseball. I could catch pop flies at a very young age. I had great hand-eye coordination. I could, like, King Griffey, Willie Mays catch, like behind, like over my head. So, and I was doing the same thing in football. So you could throw me as a little kid, you could throw me 50 and 60-yard passes, and I could catch it over my head running in stride. I bet you someone like DK Metcalf would struggle with that, right? It's something that obviously growing into it, and the more and more reps he's got, it'll be more natural and more comfortable, but it won't be all the way natural like a Keenan Allen or a Mike Thomas and these guys with hands. Think about Odell Beckham. You think he had to actually work on catching the ball? Not a chance. That's the most naturally gifted catcher of the football. Outside of guys like Chris Carter back in the day, these guys who always seem to be able to put their hand in the correct position to catch the ball. No basket catching, no body catching. So sometimes you have to do that, but there are times when you absolutely don't have to do that. And I've seen DK Metcalf do it. And the ball will get into his body, or he'll have his palms facing upward, right, instead of out. It's little things like that. But that doesn't mean he's not a very, very talented receiver. I don't understand why people think if you're not the best, then people think you suck. That's fanboyism. I never, ever thought that DK Metcalf sucked. And remember, this is a guy that, before any of you guys were a fan of this dude, me covering football for Rivals.com. If you guys don't know what Rivals.com is, I don't know what to tell you, but then again, I do know, right? A lot of you guys, Seattle's a pretty Seattle, but the state of Washington, Oregon, Pacific Northwest, pretty good as far as college goes. I don't know the dynamics of it. I've never been out there, probably would never ever go out there. However, I would have to think that there are a ton of fans, more so than out here in the Northeast corridor, Mid-Atlantic, whatever you want to call it. If you out here in North Jersey, not too many people are caring about college football. Rutgers is out here, right? Jersey, period, right? So South Jersey, you have Temple and some of the schools like that. But this is a basketball, right? This is basketball cities out here. New York, Jersey, Philadelphia. This is basketball and professional football. So I don't know the dynamics out there. I know that you guys are diehard Seahawks fans, but even out here you have people who could be diehard Rutgers fans. So don't know the dynamics, but I do know that obviously with the University of Washington out there, University of Oregon. But anyway, Rivals.com, that's or at least at one particular point in time, was the premier brand. And obviously they host those camps as far as, I forget, the Rivals 250 camp, right, presented by Under Armour. I think before that, Adidas. And he would do it regionally. So a guy like DK Metcalf would show up at a camp. So I was at a camp that had DK Metcalf, A.J. Brown, some other guys who are actually rated higher than those guys, like a Kyle Davis ended up going to Auburn and stuff like that. So I saw this guy at a real young age, and he was not a natural hands catcher then. Anytime I've ever seen DK Metcalf, he's been overshadowed by other people, mainly A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown was overshadowing him then, overshadowing him at Ole Miss, and DK Metcalf was not a first-round pick. So when people see a list that has DK Metcalf technically rated like the 18th best receiver, think about that, commiserate to what you know him as or what you know him from. Being a second-round pick, he's a self-made man. There's no doubt about that. However, you can't just totally say that he's a complete wide receiver. He is a very good wide receiver who's working on his way to being a complete wide receiver, and that could very much happen this year. So that's scary to think about if you're somebody who's a detractor of DK Metcalf. And you don't even have to be a detractor of DK Metcalf to be able to analyze him correctly. So I would consider myself that. I feel like I analyze everyone the same. There's no bias in anything I do. That's why I like covering football from teams that I really don't have a rooting interest in. There's no bias there. Naturally, you're going to have bias for something that you have a rooting interest in, right? I have bias for my wife. If she's out there doing something, I'm going to say she's the best and this and that. So it is, right? If you have a passion for something, you're going to tend to put a little bias in it. But even I can remove the bias from stuff that I'm passionate about. So if I'm covering a team that I have rooting interest in, I can be completely unbiased. And, of course, you're going to be unbiased for teams you have zero rooting interest in. So, for me, it's a business, and I love covering it in that aspect, the way I can able to step back, have zero emotions involved, and cover what I see, not what I want to see. A lot of people want to see things, and it clouds their vision. So, DK Metcalf, I'm waiting for him to take that turn where he's a top 5 receiver, but he's just not there yet. And the sooner you guys stop making excuses like, oh, well, if he had a better OC or if he had a better quarterback, Cletus, he would be as good as Tyreek Hill. Stuff like that, to me, that lets me know when somebody does not understand what the hell they talking about. No, he could be in Tyreek Hill's exact situation. It would not make him a better wide receiver. Because your wide receiver skill set is determined by your set of skills, right? I don't know how else to explain that, right? It's as simple as that. So, like I talked about before with the route running, not giving up on routes. There's some times where I've seen him give up on routes where he believes that, oh, well, I couldn't defeat this, so let me give up on this route. And then the ball still comes to him because Geno Smith is petrified of not throwing the ball to the dude because he doesn't want him to act up. Right? We've seen him act up and pout. To me, that's not being a leader as well. So there's a lot of stuff to go into DK. But even with all that said, he's still, in my opinion, a top 10 receiver. Now, you have some people who don't think he's a top 10 receiver. I'm fine with that as well. You have some people who think that he's the best receiver in the game. I take issue with that, to say the least. He is not that. So that does not mean, like I said before, that he's not very, very good. He's going to be pushing to be great, and this could be the year. It could be, right, Mike McDonald. It could be the scheme there. But most of it has to do with DK Metcalf looking within himself and seeing why people who are scouts, analysts, and personnel execs would rate him outside of the top 15. Now, keep in mind, there are more than 17 players in the NFL playing the wide receiver position. It's damn near 17 wide receivers on one team. So that still puts him in elite company. But like I said before, if you don't think someone is the best in this business, they're going to say that you're biased or you hate them. And when it's not necessarily the case, you're just being honest about your assessment. So Geno Smith, DK Metcalf getting some superlatives. I have not heard much out of Jackson Smith and Jigba. We're just speaking on the offense right now. And obviously, if you're a running back and all that, you're really going, when those pads come on, and that's when it's on. Same deal with offensive linemen. To me, it's the same thing. Like if you the quarterback, even, you know what I'm saying? I've seen some superlatives about Derek Carr, right? He was beating guys. I'm like, who the hell is that he's beating? Like, you know what I mean? Or George Fenn. Obviously, I know who Fenn is and all this. These guys aren't elite linemen. That's the thing where people show up in camp against your own guys. It's kind of hard to discern what's really going on here because it is your own personnel. Is it the Seattle Seahawks defense not up to snuff, right? If it's not as good as we think it's going to be, or is it just camp? I always tell people it's just camp. Don't ride the wave of camp. Camp momentum will go this way one day, that way, because it's called practice. In no uncertain terms, is it anything different than practice? So people get to watch the practice, so they're going to have their opinions and they're going to formulate that. One of the things that's really getting me right now is the coverage of Sam Howell. Now, this is twofold, because obviously you're going to have people who don't like Geno Smith and they want to see him fail. And they want to see someone like Sam Howell succeed, even though they couldn't give a damn about, or couldn't give a damn less about Sam Howell prior to his arrival in Seattle. But all of a sudden, they're big Sam Howell fans, despite the fact that this guy threw 21 interceptions. So they'll make every excuse in the book for my man Yosemite Sam, right? That's my man. I told the story before. I also was able to cover him when he was in high school. 7-on-7 teams, and he was linked to some stuff that I was linked to. So being able to see him early as a leader, as a thrower of the football, passer, and all that, I think the world of Sam Howell. But I'm not here telling you that I think that Sam Howell is the greatest thing since sliced bread, or even that he's top 10 material or anything like that. So, but people automatically, if they don't like Geno Smith, everybody is that. So that man arrived with 21 interceptions and was ran out of town. Yet he's more talented and a better option than Geno Smith, who just made the Pro Bowl the last 2 years. So I've had people say, oh, Geno only made the Pro Bowl because this person didn't do it and that, right? So they'll make an excuse against Geno Smith and we'll make excuses for Sam Howell. Oh, his offensive line was trash. Oh, really? And the Seahawks offensive line was stellar? The fuck out of here, right? So they won't say that about Geno. They would never, ever mention that the Seahawks line was doo-doo butter, right? Trash dookie. But they'll make that for Sam Howell, knowing that they never even probably watched a game of the Commanders outside of the one that they played against Seattle. Or they'll say that, oh, Sam Howell didn't have weapons. The fuck out of here. Because you don't watch. Terry McLaurin, I would put him over DK Metcalf, and I think those personnel execs put him over DK Metcalf. I have to go and check back on that list there. Obviously not the same type of receiver, not the same size, but he is one of those modern-day nasty route runners who has DK Metcalf's speed. So he's very much in the mode of kind of like a Tyreek Hill type. And Jahan Dotson, of course, Curtis Samuel, and Logan Thomas at the tight end position. They had plenty of weapons, right? Multiple running backs between Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson. So remember, that was a team that I used to cover here as well, simultaneously, right? A few seasons ago, or 3 seasons ago. So I know the ins and out of their personnel. Sam Howell did not have a good offensive line, no doubt about that. But he had plenty of weapons, and he had enough to where 21 interceptions shouldn't have been had. So, or they say, oh, he's young and all this. So, Geno Smith was once young, right? And he had some troubles there, and nobody made excuses for him. So, it is what it is on that front. So, but people are going to the extreme saying, oh, Sam Howell wasn't even worth the trade. He's trash. He's inaccurate. He shouldn't be on the team. They need to look for somewhere else. I'm like, damn, he just got to the team. They're installing something new. He's having to learn something new as a young player, right? Geno Smith seen a lot of ball as a 11 or as a, 11, 12-year vet. He's seen a lot of ball. So where he's saying the superlatives, they have stuff that he's never seen before, but there's a lot of stuff that he has seen, I guarantee, in that Ryan Grubb scheme as well. So keep that in mind. Maybe Sam Howell hasn't seen none of this stuff, and it's just new to him. So give it some time. Damn. People want to go to the extreme. Sam Howell's the greatest thing since sliced bread, but then after a few practices where it's open to the public, he's trash. How, Sway? Yeah, so like I said, don't ride the wave of camp. Speaking of riding a wave, and this dovetails into the expectations portion of this podcast, I had a commenter say, Super Bowl or bust. And it completely floored me. I had to wonder to myself, and I believe another commenter replied to it as well. He thought the dude was trolling, but then he also said that he's seen that a lot around his Seahawks fan base. So I'm not going to be privy to anything that's not brought to my attention as far as it being right here on this platform where I feed my family at. Not a Seahawks fan, so I'm not running around or looking at Seahawks material as far as talking about the fans or looking and see what the fans are saying, right? So I get enough of that here, and believe me, thousands of comments, so I get a good sense of stuff. But Super Bowl or bust to me is wow. You would have those type of expectations on a first-year head coach that has a first-year defensive and offensive coordinator? Now, I know Ryan Grubb's been in the OC for a long time. That ain't the NFL, Jack. We've seen plenty of people go from college to the NFL and completely suck. Right? Or it does not look the same. Think about how great your man Cliff Kingsbury was in college. Was he that impactful in the NFL? And this was a guy who was a head coach who was calling his own plays and all that. So he wasn't even hampered by having a head coach who could meddle in what he's doing. He was able to do it all himself. And he wasn't lighting the world on fire. So keep that in mind. But a first-year head coach, first-year OC, first-year NFL OC, first-time DC, learning a scheme that he didn't even come from. The DC is having to learn Mike McDonald's scheme. So keep that in mind as well. Super Bowl or bust? What? Man, I don't know about that, right? Making the playoffs in the first year, to me, you have to reset your expectations because it's the first year. But some people are going to continue it because they don't know any better. They think that, hey, it's still the same players, but it's the same players doing different shit. It could be you almost like being in a foreign country, having to drive and learn the driving laws out there, and maybe driving on the other side of the road, right? What's left is right, or maybe on the steering wheels on the other side of the car. Yeah, you've driven before. You know what I mean? But the shit is just a lot different, a lot different way of operating within the same infrastructure. But, you know what I mean? That doesn't mean your results are going to be great. You got to get on the Autobahn or something like, you know what I mean? And shit just mad different. So Super Bowl or bust, I don't think people should be going that way. Now, having expectations of having a winning program, that goes without saying. So we've seen people come in, even like a DeMeco Ryans, right? First-time head coach, I believe first time OC, all that stuff for the Houston Texans, and they had some very good results, but they also had a very poor division in my opinion. Right? Indianapolis Colts wasn't hitting on all cylinders, neither was the Tennessee Titans. So, those are usually the stalwarts of that division. Jacksonville Jaguars, up and coming team. So it's not like they've got a long history of just being very good. But you think about the Rams and the 49ers, these are teams that have made it to the Super Bowl and have won the Super Bowl. It's just a different animal playing there. So you might think the Rams are down, they still have head coaches that know how to win in this league. They still have some players that know how to win in this league or have tasted victory. And the San Francisco 49ers are just a juggernaut. And you could continue to trick yourself and believe that they'll suck. They had some dude last year. Why won't these people come back and apologize when they say stupid shit? But they'll come back if I was wrong on something. Yeah, it's coming back from like 1986. Hey, like, Murf, you remember back in 1986? And you was wrong about so-and-so and like that. I'm like, come on, man. This is what we doing here. Right? You had some people before last season when I was saying, please stop worrying about the Philadelphia Eagles. They're not in your division. Worry about the San Francisco 49ers. They're in your division, and they're a team to be reckoned with. I was like, no, they're usually not good. They're good for a year or two, and then they suck. And this dude was, I was like, that's your analysis? Not the fact that they clearly have gotten themselves a very good quarterback that fits the system who's young, and they have all these all-pro talent guys on both lines of scrimmage. To me, when you're stout on both lines of scrimmage, you have a chance. The Seattle Seahawks, you can say arguably have better weapons and all that, but they don't have the same type of line of scrimmage. Now they're getting there, right? On defense, definitely looking like it could get there, right? And we'll have to talk about that a little bit too, right? Real quickly on that after this segment here. But the San Francisco 49ers tried and true on both lines of scrimmage. They're going to run the ball. They're going to punish you. They're going to play physical defense. They're getting after the pass and all that. They're going to be good, period. So those guys are in the division. So to me, it's a little bit different. The expectations, you got a lot of games against those type of teams there. And, you're going to have to bring your hard hat every damn game, right? And, of course, people around the league, man, a lot of parity in the league, whether it be from just this day and age of football where a lot of the stuff is kind of geared toward the offense. But for some odd reason, man, there's definitely a lot more parity in the league and at the Seattle Seahawks. So while they have a chance to win and advance in the playoffs, should that be your expectations for the first year? Now, the second year, all bets is off. That's, all bets are off. We've seen people in that second year, I believe, win Super Bowls, right? Or get close to it. So, that would be with anything. I remember covering the Atlanta Falcons, and people were saying how much Dan Quinn sucked, how much Kyle Shanahan sucked. He made Matt Ryan worse than the previous regime did under Coach Mike Smith and those guys that they had, Dirk Cutter and all them. And it looked pretty bad that first year, but that second year, Matt Ryan's MVP. The Falcons are this close to actually winning the Super Bowl. So second year, all bets are off. But the first year, you got to kind of temper your expectations. But nobody wants to do that as a fan because everyone wants to have a chance or think they will win the Super Bowl every year. So could they win the Super Bowl? Yeah. Anything can happen in football. They could just catch lightning in a bottle. You know that the talent is there. Right? It won't be a talent thing. It'll just be an infrastructure thing and how quickly those guys can come together and if they can actually coach. We don't know if Mike Macdonald can be a great head coach. We know him to be a very good coordinator for the last couple of seasons. But even then, he doesn't have a long track record of being a great defensive coordinator. He just has some really great results over a small period of time on a team that will always have great results. The Baltimore Ravens is just that team, right? So take it from me. So temper those expectations, all right? But with that being said, man, I'm going to go ahead and call it there. Now, we had some weird shit go on, right? I haven't even looked into it to see what was going on with your man, Byron Murphy. So apparently, just from what I gather, because listen, I'm not the type to go towards some stuff that, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I don't like getting in people's personal lives anyway, right? I'm the most private person up on this platform, period, right? Please name somebody else that you guys watch out there who's more private than me. You don't see me on social media talking about I went here and I'm eating this and all that like you see a lot of these other people do, right? They'll tell you about every single thing that they're doing. They be on Facebook, and I don't have none of that shit. So I'm strictly football and strictly the business, and I try to keep my personal life separate from that. So apparently, you know what I'm saying, he may have been involved in some, you know what I mean, some homoerotic behavior, right? I'm guessing dealing with, I don't know, right? But some people were saying it's an extortion attempt, or I believe he's labeling it as such and turning it over to the FBI. But I had people come to the channel. I had no idea what was going on. So, and was saying some of the stuff that he said, right? I don't know. At least he allegedly said. So, I don't know. You have to take that for what it's worth, man. I'm not going to joke about that there. I know you guys probably expected me to make some jokes about it. Maybe I will make jokes about it in due time, but we'll have to let the facts, you know what I mean? If we find out that it's fake, then yeah, we probably got to make fun of that. You know? Yeah, I mean, right there. But to each their own. I don't want nobody to ever think that I think that is wrong or anything. People can do what the hell they want to do in their lives. I've always been that dude right there, right? I have no problem with anybody and what they want to do with their specific life if it doesn't impact me. Far too many times out here, we have people who are worried about what others are doing. That ain't me, Jack. I could not care less what somebody else does within themselves if it does not impact me. And you can see that working on the internet. A lot of people are very bothered by what other people are doing, and it does not even impact them directly. So if that's something that Byron Murphy does, I could not care less. To each their own. I have no problem with people who want to be themselves, express themselves however they want to do it, and whichever fashion they choose to. So, no. My problem becomes when people be saying stuff, it's with people who be faking the flunk. You know, they straight up faking it and stuff like that. And then they want to act hard and they want to do this. Not saying you can't be hard and be like that or whatever, but, you know what I mean? That's just my culture where we come from here. We're not necessarily making fun of people who partake in that. You're making the fun of the people who don't partake in that. I don't know. It's a slippery slope. So, I mean, I've never been the one to shy away from like controversial stuff like that. So I always fight battles for those guys, right? You know what I mean? I'm very liberal when it comes to stuff like that. So I'm always about rights for subgroups or however people want to label that, right? And you know I will always 100% fight for racism. Right? That's my number one passion there. I will always fight. So you can save all that bullshit. I'm going to continue to call it out when I see it. And you have people out there, they only see what they want to see. I call it out no matter what it is or who it is. Who is the one talking about people need to stop talking about Jake Bobo's race and see him for what he is, how he plays football. Stop comparing him to other white people that he does not play football like. He plays football more like we've seen with a lot of these brothers who have a lot of sauce in their game. I did the same deal with Aiden Hutchinson. People were saying he was trash, and when he played against Alabama and did not have that good a game. Yet he had the same exact game that Will Anderson had. I mean, the same exact game. And people said that Will Anderson was the truth. And I already knew what that was rooted for. People said, oh, he won't be good in the NFL. He's only good at Michigan. How'd that work out? And all this stuff is there for people to see. Look up my Aiden Hutchinson drawing from when he was in college. So I'm going to fight that forever. That's what I'm telling you right now. That's one of my number one passions is just equality and making people worry about themselves and stop judging people based on stuff that's out of their control. All right. That being said, much love to everybody out there, man. Shout outs to people in Vancouver Island. A lot of people checking in from Vancouver Island. in Canada, period. Shout outs to people in Oregon. Shout outs to everybody in Washington State, Northern California, Montana. People tapping in from the Dakotas. You had people checking in from Colorado. Mad people in Texas. People in Michigan, out here in the East, in the Northeast, and Mid-Atlantic as well. Right? People tapping in all over. So much love to all you guys, even people down south, right? You know, I'm not a big fan of the South, but you know what I'm saying? I'm a big fan of people who are big fans of me. So we'll keep it locked right here. Thank you as always, Scheme to Death. We keep it locked on the Sehawks Cast. All right. Salute.